The month of June has become increasingly interesting for many Christians, to say the least. It's been marked as Pride Month in many public settings, with communities and even sports teams holding special ceremonies to commemorate an alternative lifestyle that celebrates LGBTQ plus identities. And in the public circle, many are encouraged or maybe even coerced to be tolerant of the propagation of lifestyles that not only do they not agree with, but they might think that are actually harmful for young people to be exposed to. And that's what happened with the LA Dodgers and a recent dust-up over inviting a pro-LGBTQ plus group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to the ballpark. Today, this group will be at the LA Dodgers baseball game as they commemorate Pride Month. And for those of us as parents who enjoy pastimes like baseball and want to pass on the tradition to our kids, this can be a dark place because the teams and the sport that we have grown a strong affinity for now is bringing in groups who not only oppose an idea that we find to be core to who we are, but actually makes fun of, mocks, and adamantly opposes the very foundation of our worldview. But today on the Celebrate Kids podcast, in our daily segment Facing the Dark, Dr. Kathy is going to look at this issue and give some insight for parents on how we can move forward. So here's Dr. Kathy.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So Dr. Kathy, Clayton Kershaw is an LA Dodgers icon, and really he's a legend. He's a baseball player who's likely a first ballot Hall of Famer, which in the Hall of Fame, that's incredibly hard to achieve. He's widely regarded as one of the greatest pitchers of all time. But for the last month, he's been making headlines for things other than baseball playing. The storyline here is kind of nothing short of remarkable. The Dodgers initially invited an LGBTQ charity group called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And these people were invited to the annual Pride Night celebration at the Dodgers ballpark. The advocacy group calls itself an, quote, order of queer and trans nuns, end quote. Their motto is to, quote, go and sin some more, end quote. Their Easter celebration last month included children's programming, followed by a drag show where adult performers dressed in blasphemous imitation of Jesus and Mary. And then they hosted pub crawls mocking the Stations of the Cross and even the Eucharist. Noting the explicit nature that this group has, there was obviously public questioning that led to the Dodgers disinviting the group. Then the LGBTQ community raised their voices and the group was actually re-invited. Kershaw got into the mix when he said, quote, I don't agree with making fun of other people's religions. I just don't think that no matter what your religion you are, you should make fun of someone else's religion, end quote. So rather than protesting the reversal, he approached the team about relaunching the club's Christian Family and Faith Day. And the team has sped up the announcement in the midst of the public quagmire that they've created. Speaking for himself and his wife, Kershaw added, quote, for us, we felt like the best thing to do in response was, instead of maybe making a statement of condemning or anything like that, would be just to try to show what we do support, as opposed to maybe what we don't. And that was Jesus. So to make Christian Faith Day our response is what we felt like was the best decision, end quote. So, Dr. Kathy, I really respect Mr. Kershaw and his decision, but I can't help but feel a little bit triggered by what's going on here. I mean, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence does not necessarily promote an alternative lifestyle. What they're presenting is actually harmful to kids and their future. So I guess what I'm asking is, shouldn't Christians be outraged at this and kind of vehemently oppose it? What would you do if you were a multi-million-dollar pitcher? Or maybe I should say, what would you do if you were the parent of kids who love the Dodgers?
I'm so glad we're talking about this. I, too, have such respect for Clayton Kershaw and his wife, and I love that they went for a solution rather than just, again, complaining. You know, I like to say complaining doesn't do anything but change a good attitude to bad. Complaining doesn't change things. And so for them to say, hey, what could we do that would be proactive for our cause? I just have the utmost respect for that. And I'm grateful that the Dodgers are going to add back in the Christian Faith and Family Day. Do I think they never should have canceled it? Of course. Do I wish it didn't take this to make the change? Of course. But it did, and they're doing it, and that's great. what I would say to parents, well, first of all, I agree with you that the things that this group says is healthy, it's so harmful to kids and to adults. And so then anybody thinks it's okay, it just turns my stomach. I just don't understand it at all. It's rude and disrespectful and inappropriate and unhealthy and all those kinds of things. So no. We stay away that day. We stay away, right? And maybe we write letters to, the owner of the Dodgers, and we maybe, stop going for a while to see if it'll hurt their pocketbook. What do I say to a parent, if their kids love the Dodgers? It's okay to love the Dodgers. Somebody at the, ownership level, management level made this decision. It doesn't mean that everybody in the Dodgers organization believes it was a good idea. And again, we do have freedom. That's part of one of the good things about our country. And so, but you teach them that you can love without liking or approving of everything. That's how we should be with people, right? I love people even when I disagree with choices that they make because I don't see them as being good choices for them. We still love the people. So yeah, now I might not want my kid to wear that shirt to school the week after all this blew up for fear that he would be teased for being a Dodger fan when this is, hot in the news. And so this is where the parent intervenes and says, hey, we're going to love the Dodgers. Grandpa loved the Dodgers. We're going to love the Dodgers. We don't like what they did. And just to be safe, because people are crazy, let's put our Dodger hats and our Dodger t-shirts, in the closet for maybe a week or two and not wear them, to baseball practice.
There's a lot to be said of our Christian witness in the world, which, like you were kind of explaining, is a primary driver for Kershaw and how they responded here. He's conscious of how people in the outside world perceive his love and care for the LGBTQ community. And that's notable and actually something that I think is really scriptural. But as parents, should we be concerned with how the world perceives our handling of these issues? Or is there a place for parents to just say no and kind of be a curb or a wall that the world's ideas kind of stop at? What are your thoughts there?
Again, everybody has to do what they think is best for them. People who are not well educated on these issues are maybe going to choose quiet more so that they're not put into a corner and having to explain something that they don't really understand. And I respect that. I don't enter into every discussion when I feel like something's wrong because it's not my place. It's not my lane to walk in. I don't feel like I know enough or that my perspective would be, beneficial to the conversation that's taking place. As far as should we be concerned with how the world perceives our handling, if we love and then we're accused of agreeing with, we stand up and say, you're making an assumption that's not true. The God of the Bible has taught me that you love people, and I can love people to the glory of God without approving of their choices. So I think we learn to stand up for ourselves. We learn some quick sound bites that we would feel comfortable sharing. And if we continue to get harassed by a particular group or person, we make a note of that. And when they're in the area, maybe because of safety and wisdom, we aren't quite as vocal. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Dr. Kathy, I want to pull back maybe 10,000 feet or 20,000 feet or 30,000 feet and ask maybe a bigger question. This issue is going to be something that for the rest of time, we're going to be engaging, that the public is going to have a different perspective or is going to push things on our family that we don't intend, but we're kind of expected to go along with it. What should parents do in those moments when these subjects come up? And what are some maybe key talking points that we should identify as parents and people that work with kids to kind of talk to our kids about when these topics do come up?
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this because parents cannot live in a cave or a bubble and think that this is irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. It's very relevant. And being prepared is really wise. It makes me think of counterfeit bills. The FBI and first responders, bank officials never study counterfeit bills. They only study the real thing because that allows them to recognize when something is a counterfeit. What I would like for parents to do is to talk with their children about the truth that they want them to believe and live by. So if children know the truth, they'll recognize the lie and they'll hear the liar. And I think they're more likely to walk away, to not be affected at the emotional level, maybe from what's going on. So let's talk about what's true. And again, what we say at the ministry is in our family, we believe the holy, accurate, transforming, relevant word of God. And therefore, this is how we behave and what we believe and what we do. Our neighbors don't even know God. They haven't read the Bible. We can't hold them to the same account, and we will love them. I also think that it's important that we teach our kids things like we don't call people stupid who disagree with us. They're deceived. or they have different philosophies, but let's not call people stupid because they arrive at different conclusions. Disrespectful does not help your kids.
That image that Dr. Kathy gave us regarding counterfeit bills and the people who study the real dollar bill to understand the counterfeit is something that I think is important for parents to do in this cultural moment as we're working with our kids to inspire them to live and think in ways that God has designed. It's something that I think comes out of Psalm 1. And this is what's written. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. This is the start of a whole book of prayers and petitions and really realities that God's people found themselves in. And inside of this book, there's imagery of men of God who are bold and mighty, hiding in crags and rocks, trusting in the Lord, and referencing God's power and strength, and also God's security as being a rock that they hide underneath, or an eagle on whose wings they ascend. And the fact that this book starts out this way, calling God's people not to stand in these ways of the wicked or sit in these seats of people who scoff at God's design, but actually find themselves, like Dr. Kathy said, meditating on the truth. I think that's the call for parents in these moments. And we hope that that's been an encouragement for you today. Maybe over the course of today and over the course of this weekend, we take our kids aside and we meditate and think and converse about the truth and the beauty of God's design. I want to thank you for joining us here this week on the Celebrate Kids podcast in our daily segment, Facing the Dark. My name is Wayne Stender, and on behalf of the rest of us here, we enjoyed our time with you this week, and we're looking forward to seeing you here again on Monday.